What's happening, y'all? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Please make sure to share and to like the videos. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and become a subscriber to the Green Gorilla channel. What we say again here is straight up, no chaser, so sometimes the things I say may be a little bit off-putting, but as you know, I'm also known as the Toxic Avenger. I really don't care. I just got to say what's on my mind. There are not too many spaces where black men can say what they feel and what they think. This is one of those places, and it will not be compromised. So having said that, I want to give a shout out to my members. I want to give a shout out to Ricky Dawson, the blackback gorilla. I want to give a shout out to Brother Love, a silverback gorilla. I want to give a shout out to all my gorillas: Black Dog, NEU, Cedric Bowman, Truth 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, Ronan Martin, Shop Talk Live, W. Pierre One, Roguish the Billmonger, I Care, The Nameless Protagonist, Force Windu, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle. I really would like to give y'all this shout out. Thank you for becoming members of the channel. And also, like, if you want to contribute to the channel, you can do so by hitting that join button right next to the subscribe button on the page, my channel page, and you can look at the various levels of membership that I have. Please support the channel because, you know, without support, it's very difficult to keep this kind of thing going. But having said all that, I want to get to the subject at hand. This idea that there's a such thing as a whole phase. Now, I've been, you know, I'm old school, man. You know, I was born in 71. So thank you very much, Leroy Honeycutt, for becoming a member of the Green Gorilla channel. I appreciate that, my brother. You know what I'm saying? St. Louis, we here. But, you know, I'm old school. So, you know, I've been told that, especially as it pertains to, you know, females, that there are three kinds. You got women, you got bitches, and then you got hoes. You know? And at any given moment, any given female could be any one of those three things. And I want to give a shout out to Ab Media, Roguish the Billmonger, thank you. Corey Green, I see you out there. Chance Rogers, thanks for the shout out on the intro. Some brother out there, I can't tell what his name is. All he has is an icon, but it is what it is. My man Jones boy said, he said, old school, I graduated in 72. Well, hey, you know, I got to give a shout out to the OGs. And by OG, I mean old gentleman, not old gangster. But having said that, man, this is how I perceive these categories that females can take on. Now, you could be a bitch, which means that you're disagreeable. You complain all the time. You're violent. You're aggressive. You're not able to be reasoned with. You are always in a combative situation with this type of person because they want things their way. So they're going to be combative. However, there's the hoe. And the hoe is the female that either has sex for pleasure or they have sex for money. Now, in some sense, I can almost respect the woman who has sex for money up to a certain extent, because at least you know what you're dealing with. You know that, okay, I'm getting sex for money. There's no illusions, no pretenses, no illusions again. There's no playing games about it. It's you give me the money, you get the sex, and then I move on to the next John. But then you have a certain kind of female that has sex for pleasure. And she has no problem with jumping from dick to dick to dick to dick to dick because she considers it liberatory. It's pleasurable. I just want to fuck who I want to fuck. Now, I'm pretty sure that most women are very much aware of the fact that being categorized as a hoe is not a positive thing. It's not positive. Like a woman being considered to be a hoe, and women call themselves hoes, or they'll talk negatively about a woman that they consider to be a hoe. Yeah, this is no secret, man. They'll condemn each other for what they consider to be whorish behavior. But now you got a group of females, man, who for the most part, they're beginning to come to the conclusion that it's okay to be a hoe. And not to get paid for it. I mean, they just want to jump from dick to dick to dick to dick to dick. Like, it's cool. Like, that's a good thing to do because it's all about them and their pleasurability. But then after that, they want to say that that was just the phase. And then after that phase, they can go back and become a woman, a virtuous woman, an upright woman, a chaste woman. Now, I'm not even saying that there are only women who are whores because there are men whores, man whores. You got man thoughts too. Not saying that there aren't man thoughts. There are plenty of man thoughts. But typically, for the most part, most men are not fucking anyway. They're like in a competition with other men to be able to gain access to women. Now, I don't care about that. Look, I'm done with that, all this chasing women bullshit. I'm almost 50 years old. I have no desire to be on the chase for women. I just don't anymore. I really don't. But regardless, this idea that you can go in and out, in and out, in and out of phases with your body, with your sexuality, and then you're still going to be able to preserve your integrity, is ridiculous, man. And I'm not here to police anybody's body, but I'm here to tell you what you are, given the context of your performance and your behavior. It just is what it is. For example, if everybody knows, if somebody plays the piano a lot, they're a pianist. If somebody works with wood a lot, they're a carpenter. Somebody sings a lot, they're a singer. Somebody, works with money all day, they're a financier. Somebody that builds bridges all day, they're a bridge builder. Somebody that plays the guitar all day, they're a guitarist. Somebody that fucks all day and jumps from dick to dick, and a man who jumps from woman to woman, they're whores. You are what you do. You are what you put your effort into. Your character is commensurate with the activities that you perform. This is just how it is. There's no changing this. You can try to change it, but it is what it is. So explain to me how it's possible for you to jump from dick to dick to dick to dick, and then all of a sudden, now you become a chaste and an upright woman. How does that happen? How does that take place? I'm just trying to figure it out. I don't understand it. And another thing that's just crazy to me is how a lot of women use the behavior of men who are whores in order to justify themselves behaving like whores. Well, men do it. Men get to go out and have sex and do this, and nobody looks down on them. So, well, why can't women do it? Why can't we do what y'all do? Well, first of all, again, most of us don't do it to begin with, because most men ain't out here having sex. That's just a fact. But then when you think about it, you want to pattern your behavior after the most loose men. That's your ambitions. That's right. Right now, that's what women have the ambition to do. To behave like the most whorish men, the most irresponsible men. That's the goal. Because men can do it. So not all men are doing it. But women want to use the excuse that there's a certain group of men that actually behave this way, so they can justify that kind of behavior predicated upon the idea that men do this shit. So that's the kind of man that you have the ambition to pattern your behavior after? The men who can just fuck wantonly with no care, no responsibility, no worry about anything in the world, producing many kids, don't care. Or spreading sexually transmitted diseases. Just don't care. Explain it. I'm trying to come to an understanding. I just don't get it. And most men, I'm telling you right now, I don't care what you have to say about it, all this sex positivity shit. Nobody wants to be with a woman that every dude done had access to. I'm just tired of all the lies being told. Who wants to go somewhere and wherever they go, it's some random ass motherfucking dude coming up, greeting your woman, and then he's knowing already that he done had her? Who wants to be connected to that? Who wants to be tied to that, conjoined to that? I ain't saying that you got to be brand new all the way through and through, but goddamn, I mean, you part of a sex group. What y'all do is y'all just go and y'all fuck, and you just go there for free. You let niggas fuck you, and you getting, you sucking and you getting fucked at the same time, and then you want to go back and then be a wife to somebody? Explain to me how that shit works. And then see, one of the things is human beings are creatures of habit. They do things, and when they begin to do things, they tend to continue to do the things they've done. Like, for example, if you go to the gym and you work out quite often, thank you very much, Corey Green, for the donation. If you go out and you work out a lot, you become accustomed to working out, and you miss it. You miss it. If you jog every day and it becomes part of what you do, you miss it. If you eat healthy, like say, for example, you just avoid red meats, and then one day you go and eat some red meat, it's going to affect you. It's going to have an impact on you because people tend to do what they have done before, and lifestyles become habitual. The choices you make lead to habits, and habits become difficult to break. And then it becomes normal. It becomes part of who you are and what you do. So how is it possible for you to go through a phase in which you jumping from dick to dick to dick to dick to dick, and then all of a sudden you're going to become a wife? How do you do that? How do you do it? And then how do you remain chaste within the context of a relationship if you've already set a precedent that you're not chaste to anyone, not even your own self? You just jumping from this to that, to that, to that, and that, and that, and that, and that. How can you prepare yourself to be a wife when everything that's associated with being a wife is something that you already rejected? Because the ultimate rejection of wifehood is whoredom. The rejection of wifehood is whoredom. I mean, right now we live in a culture where all of this is perfectly, like, it's normalized now. It's absolutely normalized. And it's subsidized by the state. This shit, see what happens with these women, man, is they become sexually promiscuous, they have kids, and then the state bails them out. Why change? Why would you change your behavior when the world is set up and arranged in a way to subsidize that kind of behavior and there's no penalty for it? Why would you even change your behavior? There's no incentive to change the behavior. The behavior becomes part of popular culture. My man Red Sif Lord said feminism equals whoredom. Well, what feminism is a publicity campaign to allow for what I would consider to be whoredom. And women know it. They are understanding, because if they didn't understand it, they wouldn't call it a whole phase. But my argument is you can't phase in and out of whoredom. Like you can phase shifting out of corporeality to non-corporeality. You can't do that. That becomes part of who you are. That becomes the way that you practice sexuality. The funny thing is that Black people didn't used to operate this way. This wasn't something that Black people did a long time ago. Now, maybe during slavery, we were forced to be the sexual objects of white people, white slave drivers, white masters and mistresses. Not so much so during Jim Crow, although maybe, you might still have some vestiges of that kind of power and control over Black people. But Black people were a pious people. Pretty much a pious people. They believed in marriage. They believed in family life. They believed in cultivating virtue around the idea of having a mononuclear family. But then all of a sudden, that got torn up. And we all know how it got torn up. We all know how it got destroyed. I'm going to share a video with you really quickly. And after the video, we're going to get right back into what I have to say. And I'm going to come back with the feminism piece also, because I want to conjoin it and connect it. I want to conjoin and connect it to something that was an alternative to it, but that was summarily rejected in favor of what we have now. So let me just show the video, and then after I show the video, I'll get back into it.
For those of you who are not aware, the illegitimacy rate in the United States among blacks is roughly around 55%. That is, nationally, 55% of all black babies are born out of wedlock. And in some cities like New York and Chicago, you might find 80 or 90%, New York and Washington, D.C. rather, Now, the illegitimacy rate among blacks is a new phenomenon in black history in the United States. That is, in 1940, the illegitimacy rate among blacks was about 12%. In 1918, the illegitimacy rate among black teenagers was less than that among white teenagers. So how do you explain the increase in illegitimacy and or out of wedlock marriages or slovenliness in general? Well, I mean, I think any economist would tell you that if you tax something, you're going to get less of it. And if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it, whether it's wheat, cheese, or slovenly behavior. And indeed, in the United States, we have been subsidizing slovenly behavior. That is, we have been making the cost of illegitimacy or having kids out of wedlock relatively cheap. That is through welfare payments, through other kinds of in-kind payments. And then the fact that the modern times of the 60s, in the 70s, there was a loss of the ostracism associated with illegitimacy. When I was a young kid, and keep in mind for all of you, I just look very young, but I'm much older than that. But when a black girl would get pregnant, she was a disgrace to her family, and she was sent down south to live with a relative, and because it was just a disgrace. Nowadays, I mean, girls get pregnant and their stomachs, and they're just kind of dancing in the streets, going to school, and all the social penalties have been withdrawn from it. And so, what?
To whites also.
That's right, and the illegitimacy rate among whites is higher than what it was. So I think that I think one author put it that the welfare state in the United States did more to destroy the black family than slavery could have ever done. That is, the slavery and Reconstruction could ever done. That is, black families were far more stable during the Reconstruction period. In New York, in 1920, in New York, 80% of all black children lived in two-parent families. And nationally, up until 1960, it was 75% of blacks lived in two-parent families. And it was roughly equal, a little bit less than that of whites. Today, the number of blacks living in two-parent families is around 42%. And it's declining. And it's Reagan didn't do that. I mean, and it's no evil spirits that explain it. I believe that the welfare state explains it.
So there you have it. I mean, you didn't see this kind of behavior before. It wasn't just men who had complaints about this kind of behavior. It was little old ladies who disapproved of this behavior as well. There's been a cultural shift. And at the current moment, it's all about being a hoe and being single and being free and being able to explore your sexuality in as many and varied ways as you would like. But there's a payoff to this, because social practices have consequences. Sometimes they're foreseen, sometimes they're unforeseen. Now, the question is, what is it that at one point in time led to chastising what Walter Williams calls slovenly behavior? Basically, whore behavior. Because black people used to get married, man, very young. And they would stay married. And they would have children. And they would educate and rear the children. But now, you got a situation where It's hoes everywhere. I mean, it just is what it is. I'm not saying that men aren't playing a part in this, because women don't impregnate themselves. But it's become okay. It's cool to just fuck. There's a price to this. There's a social consequence related to this. And nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to want to tell women or men anymore that shit is destructive. That's some whorish behavior. That behavior is causing the destruction of Black children's minds. We already know the effects of Black children when they have single parent mothers, or, you know, it could even be single parent fathers. It's difficult to manage a process by which you're going to educate children and raise them to be healthy and functioning adults. It's difficult when you got two people. It becomes virtually impossible when you only got one parent, because the parent can't fulfill all of those functions by themselves. They're going to have help to do it. Now, they might use extended family in order to help them do it, but oftentimes they rely on the state. They rely on the state. And what does the state do? The state pays for childcare or daycare, or the state becomes a babysitter in virtue of the kid going to a public school system or being a student in the public school system. But we already know what the public school system is doing to Black kids. It's grinding their brains into sausage. We have kids that can't read and can't function, particularly Black boys. They're doing the worst of all in the public school system. They're experiencing the school to prison pipeline unlike any other population in the United States. These schools are not doing well by our kids. And nobody seems to care. We're just going to keep fucking and normalizing single motherhood. And you know how these babies are coming into fruition. They're coming because women are just fucking. And it's cool to be a mom now, a single mom. It's just normal. I don't know any civilization in history that just puts forth the idea that, well, let's just let women just fuck and we'll subsidize the kids through the state. Like, I've never seen it. This is unparalleled in human history. And nobody seems to be caring about the kind of effects and the impact that this is having on kids. Because 9 times out of 10, Black people don't control the school system or the daycare systems. They might take their kids to these daycares. They might be white or Black, who knows? A lot of times Black people like to take the kids to Black daycare, okay? But I mean, shit, they only go to daycare till they what, 5, 6? Then they get matriculated into the school system. Then you pick them up. Then you only got how many hours with the kids when you get off work before you got to turn over and do the same damn thing again, which is send them off to Miss Ann, to Karen, to Becky, to educate your children about how the world is and what kind of values they should adopt and what kind of principles they should live by. And nobody seems to give a shit about it. Nobody cares. Everybody just wants to have pleasure. Just fuck, fucking fuck. Dot. You can't come in and out of whole phases. Whole phases have whole consequences. Whole phases lead to whole consequences. Now, all of this shit was orchestrated by white women, man, in the 60s, early 70s. This is just how it all started. You had the sexual revolution, the birth control pill, then you get the legalization of abortion, and then it just becomes a free fest for fucking. No mind, pay no mind to the results. Because when you fuck, what's the natural consequences of fucking? Children. Children. That's the natural consequence of fucking. Children. And nobody seems to care about what the consequences will be until after it's done. No shame associated with it. No constraining of the kind of behavior. None of it. It's a free-for-all out here. But the question is, how is it possible that we're going to be able to resist against the forces that exist against us in this culture and in this society without having strong families to give them the right kind of values, to impart the right kind of wisdom? How is it going to happen when all we're dedicated to is the fucking fuck? There was an alternative, but it was summarily rejected. It was absolutely positively rejected. Not by the entirety of the Black community, but of a small amount of women in the Black community who were lesbians. And look, you can fuck who you want to. That's on you. But these women went off to communes where there were nothing but women, and they fucked each other. They had orgies with each other. They went to lesbian communes and shit. It's crazy to me. But this has become the norm now. This is normal now. What once used to be a fringe ideal amongst a small segment of the Black population has become normalized. It's the thing. And if you say anything about it, or you pose an objection to it, people will lambaste you and say that you're not being progressive, that somehow you're being evil, that somehow you're being homophobic, transphobic, sexist, misogynistic, whatever the case may be. Thank you, Sherrod Martin, for becoming a member. I really appreciate that. And also, please support the channel. I know it's the end of the month. I know it's getting kind of tight till tomorrow. Or, until the first of the month. I already know. But please support the channel if you can. And I don't do this just for cash anyway, man. I do this to impart information to my people, man. So do what you can. And if you got to wait, do what you got to. But at the end of the day, man, all I'm trying to do is to try to figure out at what point did we get to the point where sexuality just fucking freely with not a care in the world became the norm. And then with women being embraced for it. Because I've said this before on this channel, man, women are the gatekeepers of chastity and reproduction. If they're fucked up in relation to this kind of thinking, then the entirety of the community is going to be fucked up. There was an alternative. I'm going to tell you what the alternative was. I'm going to show it to you. And it's the very thing that was decried. It was the very thing that these Black feminist lesbians said was anathema. They said it was oppressive. They said they didn't want it. I'm going to read to you from a pamphlet created for women, Black women. Because at the same time the civil rights movement had reached its precipice, many of these groups began to pop up. The Black Power movement, the Black nationalist movement, that was seeking to, through self-determination and through the instillment of a certain set of prideful principles that could help lead and educate Black families so that we can create a cohesive Black community, they were summarily rejected. They were summarily discarded and considered to be sexist. So I'm going to read it for you. And then after I read it for you, I'm going to let you go. It's going to be it's not that lengthy, but it's a little bit lengthy. And you tell me, what is there to disagree about related to these principles as opposed to the ones that we have today? Because what we got today is a shit show. A circus. A fuck circus. A fuck circus. So this pamphlet, man, is, for the most part, dedicated towards the nationalist woman. It's a Black nationalist pamphlet. And it was quoted in the Combahee River Collective as being regressive, sexist. And they quoted, like I said, they quoted from it and said, we reject that. We don't want to have anything to do with that. And I'm not going to go through the development part or social development part, but I'm going to go through what they say about the Black family. They say, and let me make this a little bit larger because you might not be able to see it. It says the Black family is a very important area of social organization because it is the smallest example of how the rest of the nation works. As Imamu Baraka points out in one of his poems, the nation is like ourselves. Whatever we are doing is what the nation is doing or not doing. The family unit is the basis of all nations, and the understanding of the roles of those who make the house unified is essential. We understand that it is, and has been traditional, that the man is the head of the house. He is the leader of the house nation because his knowledge of the world is broader, his awareness is greater, his understanding is fuller, and his application of this information is wiser. The accepting of the Black man's leadership has involved the understanding of the African personality, which has no superior or inferior, only complementarity. The man has any right that does not destroy the collective needs of his family. After all, it is only reasonable that the man be the head of the house because he's able to defend and protect the development of his home. Now that's considered to be fighting words by a whole bunch of women right now. The leader? You can't lead me. But what you get twisted in all of this is, by them refusing leadership from Black men, they're leading themselves and they're leading children. And they X'd you out of the equation as a Black man. There is no refusal of leadership by means of saying that leadership from Black men is oppressive, because what you get is the default of Black male leadership, which is the gynocracy, Black female leadership. So we can cut the chase with all the bullshit. Somebody's got to lead it. Right now, you got Black women leading it. And you got to ask yourself, how the fuck is that going right now? What has been the consequences of that? But we don't want to talk about that, though. See, because you can talk about who you ain't going to let lead you, but that makes you the leader by default. By proxy, you've become the leader. By the adoption of that principle that I'm not going to incorporate or interpolate a man into the household and have him be in a leadership position, I take over the leadership position. There ain't no getting around that. Next, the document says, in understanding the levels of unity, you yourself have to be unified first. You cannot conquer the world if you have not conquered yourself. In getting yourself together physically, mentally, and spiritually, the other aspect of yourself has to be unified, which is your house. There is no house without a man and his wife. They are the basis of the nation. As Mualana Ron Karenga pointed out, a good example is the best teacher. In teaching the community, nation, and eventually the world of unity, our homes have to be complete in their example. The roles of the men and women have to be complementary. The roles are important in that they in turn define the responsibilities to the home, community, and to the nation. In defining the man's role as leader, his responsibilities to his house are also defined as being necessary to provide emotional, physical, and economic security. One of the key steps in the process of dehumanization resulting from our present condition of slavery has been that of destroying the family. Black men and women were separated, given conflicting roles, and the creation of various myths assured our nation of being disunified. One of the most harmful myths was created by a German named Bachofen, in which he imagined and imposed the idea of the Black matriarchy. We can call it the gynocracy, whatever you want to call it. The Black woman's role was defined in such an intentional manner as to emasculate our men, giving them a limited responsibility to guarantee broken Black homes. Since this myth exists in the enslaved minds of Black people and therefore affects our attitudes and actions, it becomes extremely necessary to define the Black woman's role as specifically that of helping the nation to reemerge. The necessity of the acceptance of our roles, therefore our responsibilities, is essential in making the Black family whole again. To understand the importance of this custom and concept, we must keep in mind an African proverb. The destruction of a nation begins in the homes of its people. But also remember another African proverb. We are Black, beautiful people. Together, we will win. So then it goes on to say something about the two aspects of the woman's role. It becomes necessary to discuss the woman's role because we have been in an unnatural situation among unnatural people and no longer understand what our role is as an African woman. So it seems like it's written by an African woman or an African American woman or a Black nationalist woman. Some of us have been trained so well that we cannot even see that the traditional Black woman was dehumanized and made in America to be a slave, played against the unity of the nation. Women cannot do the same things as men. They are made by nature to function differently. Equality of men and women is something that cannot happen even in the abstract. Men are not equal to other men. That is ability, experience, or even understanding. The value of men and women can be seen as in the value of gold and silver. They are not equal, but both have great value. We must realize that men and women are a complement to each other because there is no house family without a man and his wife. Both are essential to the development of any life. At this point of our history, we have to define ourselves so that we can develop our nation. Black woman has to be taught and relearn her role so that she is a complement to our men, or is able to complement our men, complete our families, build our nation. We must understand that in our traditional society, we were taught our roles at an earlier age, about 12 years old. In our peculiar situation, we are having to learn how to be women at an older age, but we must learn this lesson well so that our daughters will not have to suffer the same injustice. The African woman has a natural and necessary role to play in the building of our nation. The woman's role involves those things which she is responsible for by nature. These are God-given duties which she has to perform. No human has placed her with these responsibilities. We understand that the woman deals with development. The woman's functioning involves growth. She has to be inspirational to the man, educational to the children, and participate in the social development of the nation. In order for a woman to be inspirational, she has to first understand what that means. Black woman inspires Black man to be conscious of himself, culture being represented as the total way of living, religion, history, social organization, political organization, economic organization, creative motif, ethos. The Black woman must be uplifting to the Black man, Black nation. Now, it should be painfully apparent that right now we do not live in a situation in which Black women in any shape, form, or fashion are uplifting Black men. at all. Instead, black men are being typecast not as a potential salvation for black women or any other group of people for that matter. We've been categorized and characterized as the rapist, sexist, abuser who is oppressive and is preventing and halting progress for black people. We've been characterized as the white people of black people. How the fuck did that happen? That sounds like some wizardry and trickery to me. How all of a sudden did black people go from working together in order to throw off the yoke of racism to now all of a sudden you got some white motherfucking women who are like, fuck their men, get black women to say fuck their men, and then we still got the same situation going on, and you got a whole bunch of little fucking babies running around who think it's unnatural to have their daddy around. What the fuck? All because we want to be hoes. We like hoe phasing. This was the alternative to feminism. This was the alternative. And it was shut down. And also another side point. Well, I'm going to read this one sentence, but after that, I'm going to tell you something that ties into what I said earlier in another one of my videos. The woman is the inner spirit of the nation. Just as breath provides life for the body, so the woman provides life for the nation. Now, I told you, after the Civil War, which white men from the South lost to Union forces, which black men played a part in fighting for on behalf of the Union. When those men lost, guess what white women did? They created organizations like the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and they uplifted the men that had lost. They erected statues to honor them and to extol their virtue. They actually worked on providing breath for the life of their white supremacist nation. That's what they did. And I said there's no corresponding movement on behalf of black women to do the same thing. And this is the urging and the calling forth for it. Now look at the South. And look at the motherfuckers on the right in this country and how they live as opposed to how the bulk or the majority of black people live in this country. And you tell me who's got the more functional system? It's just a question. Who's got the more functional system? They uplifted their men after they lost. We won. And we still got fucking typecast as sexist abusers and rapists after we won the fight for freedom. Talk about folding the deck back on itself. What the fuck is that? And every black man should be seething in his motherfucking boots right now. By being an African, color, culture, consciousness, woman is inspirational. By having an emotional commitment to nationalism, the black woman is inspirational. By having a sincere, undying faith in our leaders, our people, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle is inspirational. For your commitment to the nation is the love for your family, because through this alone will we be able to live and have better lives. The black woman has to create the black man, with the black man, the new world we see. We can only hope to see this new life by being that new life. Black women should support their men in whatever they do in nationalism rather than holding back the progress of all black people. She must represent the value system in circulation, that is, as it is distributed to all the members of the family, which is security. When a sister has the correct attitude, which is a concern for the collective group, this is inspirational. The black woman has to be what is needed to strive, the strength, the health, the dignity, all that is valuable and beautiful of the old and new. Inspiration means that the woman has to provide the motive for movement and be the support, supplement, complement for the black man. The black woman must be an example of something free from slave mentality. She must be an example of the African personality, the liberated Black person. It becomes necessary that your man create a world that you can live in. Black woman is in charge of the children, future, because through her they are born and the nation sustained. The only way we're able to live on after death is through our children and great works. It is necessary for our survival that the children are taught values which are beneficial to the nation. Who controls the minds of our children is in charge of our future. We must make sure our children are Black, not only by race and culture, but through consciousness. This is a whole different song altogether than what you hear from Black feminists. They basically said, fuck the patriarchy. We don't want to fuck with you sexist, rapists, abusers. Fuck you niggas. I'm going to go over here and get with this white pussy juice and these white penises. I'm going to be racially hypergamous and fuck with them. I ain't fucking with y'all. Y'all are a losing proposition. I'm fucking with them. And I get to go through as many whole phases and do as much whole shit as I want. I don't have to worry about consciousness, about the entirety of the Black nation. I can just worry about me, myself, and I, and my pussy. My body, my choice. Me, my. Fuck the rest of y'all. In order for a Black woman to educate her children, it is necessary for her to be conscious. Though her conscious or through her consciousness, she is able to learn. An African proverb says, he who learns teaches. Africans have always been learning by doing. The best teacher being a good example makes consciousness of the utmost importance. For example, the children can be taught about Black art, the history, the concepts, the artists, etc., by a conscious Black woman having an intelligent house. An intelligent house is one that is informative. It gives a lesson. The house decor is organized to reflect a Black ethos, the arranging of pictures, color, furniture, artifacts. But this can only come through culture and consciousness. Our education is a cultural education. All that we learn must be learned in an African context because we are an African people with a specific way of looking at things. When we learn mathematics, reading, or whatever, it must be an African learning mathematics, reading, or whatever. The children have to be taught this new consciousness. They have to be given a value for Black liberation, for national liberation. They have to learn to keep their spirit free of the alien value system. They must be taught who they are and what they must grow up to do. Identity, purpose, and direction has to be provided. The respect for what is Black has to become a part of them. A Black value system has to be taught, of which their mothers must be the earliest examples they are conscious of. The future Black nation is composed of children. We have to develop permanent institutions for the educating of our children. Instead, we send them to fucking public schools where Becky's and Karen's fucking educate them and tell them that George Floyd is not a hero. I just recently saw some shit on Facebook where a woman was in class online doing Zoom and she said, fuck, George Floyd is not a hero. And you got Black kids learning from these motherfuckers. While the independent don't need no man, motherfucker they give their kids over to the state. And then we wonder why our culture is so fucked up. And why kids don't like themselves. And when they look at themselves, they see ugliness. Women are given the first responsibility of educating the children because they're the closest to them. The child is being educated physically, mentally, and spiritually while in the mother's womb. It is the man's wife who has to see that the children are reared with the values that his life represented, even if his body is no longer in this world. Nature has made women submissive. She must submit to man's creation in order for it to exist. This does not mean that she has to follow for the sake of following or be subservient to him, but to ensure that what he creates continues to exist when he has taken the next steps of our movement. It is the woman who has to inspire the man's creation, and she must be the house to the seed in order for its creation to develop and to continue to develop. Social development deals with this continuous development. When we say social development, we are talking about the evolution of living together process, the communing of the community and how it is manifested. It is the traditional customs and concepts of African people being manifested and developed in our everyday and future lives. Social development means education, health, and the home, the community, how they relate to the theme of national liberation. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I can go on and on and on and on. Thank you, T Fitness, for you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tech Rail. Appreciate it. But this was the alternative to feminism. To have strong, healthy, and viable families where we taught our kids and we built institutions to teach our kids and not leave them in the hands of these motherfucking white people. While we go work so we can buy bullshit and trinkets and gadgets and shit that have no import or value institutionally, culturally, or otherwise. Now I'm telling it to you straight, no chaser right here. You can like it or not. You don't have to get with what I'm saying, but this is what black men were on in 1971. This was the kind of shit that was in vogue and popular. This is what black people were thinking, trying to unite and come together and build a fucking nation, and it was rejected. In a wholesale fashion, it was absolutely, positively rejected, summarily rejected. We don't want to build no families with you niggas. We just want to go through whole phases. In fact, we're going to flip the script. Ain't no whole phases. There's no such thing as whoring. Now, I'm not saying black men don't whore. They do. But not all black men are whores. So you can't justify whoring predicated upon the context of a small amount of men that are black that are whoring. That's what we're doing. We're attaching virtue to the most vicious of men and then justifying our vicious behavior predicated upon that and trying to flip the script on it and turn it into virtue. Pigs can fuck. Horses can fuck. Dogs fuck. Frogs fuck. Anything in this living that has a biological system can fuck. But we're not fucking animals. We're supposed to operate on higher principles. Supposed to. Supposed to. This is the difference between that shit, because ultimately, if you're in a household with a woman, man, bottom line, and y'all working together and she's providing inspiration and actually giving you some motherfucking fuel to live by spiritually, instead of always trying to make it about her and what she mad about at any given fucking time of day, then you can actually make some progress because you're not worried about what your woman is doing. How would you own? Black men are your fucking soldiers. But you do everything to make them impotent. You try to castrate and emasculate your own fucking men. How the fuck you gonna have a strong group of men to protect and provide when every fucking turn you see them trying to emasculate the same motherfuckers they want to protect? Protect them, huh? How can you get that? How can you get it? So at this point, man, I'm just rambling on, man. I'm getting, I'm getting into the point where I'm getting a little frustrated. But you can choose white people, liberal philosophy, which is what this shit is all predicated upon. Freedom. I can do whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do. But by default, you become the leader of the family. At the same time that you knock black men out of the possibility of having any control and direction related to his own progeny. Then you want that type of motherfucking man to come and devote everything to and for you? You get what you put out there. You receive what you give. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's just the law of the universe, man. If we don't get on our shit, we dead. Some of us already believe we dead. We already done. It is what it is. But I'm just telling you, ain't no whole phases. Either you conscious and virtuous or you are a whore. It ain't no in between. It's the reality of the situation. Either you on some progressive, uplifting, family building, nation building shit, or you're on some individual, I am a pig, I'm fucking who I want to, I don't give a fuck about the consequences type of human being, which basically essentializes you as a pig. I don't care who don't like it. I don't care who's upset about it. There was a choice made. And primarily, the choice was given and granted and presented by a group of misfit white bitches. I said it, I mean it too. Some white bitches. Who, by the way, they still go home to their men. I told you. Them motherfuckers can be feminists all goddamn day long, but at the end of the day, they going home to their motherfucking husband. That's the facts, Jack. So if I'm going to be led by anybody, I'm going to be led by the wise, not by the blind. Because I'm not falling off no fucking cliff. I done already fell off too many motherfucking cliffs, falling behind, walking behind, running behind the opposite sex. We got to get our shit together and teach these boys what the fucking reality of what their situation is. Anyway, man, thank you for joining me. I done said enough. I'm about to get the hell up on out of here, man. Keep your heads up. Spread the truth, man. Spread knowledge. And I'll leave a link to this pamphlet so that you can read it in its entirety. But there were different alternatives and options given to black people that had different choices that could have been made. Unfortunately, there was a spearheaded, I think it's a misguided movement that all they wanted to do was cash in on neoliberal opportunities within the context of this motherfucking plantation. So enjoy your butter biscuits, goddammit. I'm about to go ahead and bust a move, man. Peace.
I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the finish line and I'm in the first place. I'm a winner, and I know I'll never lose, cause I'm way too ahead of you, dude. I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the finish line and I'm in the first place. I'm a winner, and I know I'll never lose, cause I'm way too ahead of you, dude. Okay, here I go. Guaranteed to be the leader of the race, come in first place. Put the pedal to the metal, let it burn, then I blow up in your face for the boom of the big bass. Turn around, nigga, buck face. Nigga, turn up the track, leave your hook with a burnt face. Fuck a nigga, cause he gon' hate. Put some pippin' in his cup, set him up for the date rate. I go, I blaze, throw grenades in the party till I'm clearing out the whole place. Who got that block money loan? You can hear it in my tone that I own, you don't know me. Better run, nigga, bustle like a gun. Ain't a motherfucker nigga that can hold me. I'm tired of nigga suckin', find your bitch so she can blow me. Ain't nobody never changed like the young boy, many bomb boys, and he hit like a donkey. And he roll with a convoy with them hot toys. If you really wanna get it jumpin'. I blow that monkey, that hairy back green gorilla. Take it through the nose, put it on my mind, I'm a beast like Michael Jackson Thriller. Your boys are trippin', I ain't hearing till you're speaking something. Don't do too much because your pussies always do it for me. Yeah, get it good, get it like I should. All the hating motherfuckers better keep it coming. Put them all in a barn, throw a bomb, and that motherfucker leave they body slumping. I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the finish line and I'm in the first place.